Hello guys, I'm DavixStudio. Today we are going to do the episode number 4, Pros and Cons of Linux. First of all, let's take a look at the advantages of Linux. There's a fact sheet. Let's take a quick look, shall we? First, Google uses more than 15,000 Linux servers to serve up its content. That is a huge amount, but that's not astonishing enough. What is really amazing is that Linux actually runs 60% of the world server system. Plus, the top 10 most popular Linux distros are free. Indeed, most distros are free. Last but not least, there are lots of volunteers around the world having contributed to the development of Linux kernel. So here we have the first advantage of using Linux. Generally speaking, Linux is more secure than Windows. Linux does not have registry. Windows has. Registry is a single database for storing configurations. This is not very well written, however, and can become very messy after years of using. So, also there are less viruses for Linux. Of course, the most important thing is that Linux is lighter, so usually less crashes would occur. So the second good point is a bit different. This is not for normal users, but for learners. If you learn Linux in a broad sense, it means more than just commands. Then you are actually learning some concrete computing skills as well. So Linux skills are not just for Linux. Finally, when people talk about Linux, they usually will say free. Why free then? As said, most distros are free, most software are free to use, and there are simply a lot of open source available. In short, Linux is very free. But of course, everything is just like corn. Whenever there are advantages, there are also disadvantages. So now let's look at some of them. The most usual problem regarding Linux is its hardware compatibility. Linux is not Windows. While most hardware are recognized by Windows, some of them may not be suitable to Linux. Remember, not all hardware have the specific drivers for Linux. Another disadvantage is lack of games. In fact, Linux cannot use some Windows software unless you use programs like Y. However, when it comes to games, usually it requires real Windows platform for stable performance. Therefore, Y may not work well. The final drawback is not for light users, but for learners again. Since there are so many commands and concepts to learn, the learning curve may be quite flat for learners to sustain their momentum. In the end, tabulating the pros and cons, I hope you can see clearly what are the strengths and weaknesses of Linux. They are just part of the whole thing, but I think these are commonly mentioned. As for strengths, Linux may be more secure, useful, and free. As for the weaknesses, Linux may have hardware compatibility problems. It does not open PC software and has challenging commands for learners. As you can see, I have another summarization. I don't want to repeat them, so this will be the end. I hope you have a great time with Linux. Thank you very much for watching.